All right.
Yeah, see if the audio's coming through.
Looks good, that's for sure.
Does it sound good? Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, it does.
Cool. Well, oh, what the heck happened here? Look at this.
Oh, did I pinch it?
Yeah, I think so.
Whoop. Right. Check it out.
Yeah, we can do a little mic test before we get started.
Who wants,
I've only got one ear here.
Who's hosting?
I think that'd be you.
Me. So Jeremy's intro.
Already live on Periscope. Ready to go?
All right.
I've only got one ear coming to my left. Are we panning some direction? Are we?
We only have one feed into.
No, but it's running both.
I also only have one ear.
You only have one ear as well?
I only have one ear as well. There we go. That's it.
Oh,
That's
did you?
You know, when you plug in things all the way.
That works. Wait a minute. So did the people on Periscope just find out that we don't always plug things in and we're not like totally professional? Lame.
I think they could tell.
Are you watching yourself on Periscope, you narcissistic fool?
Yes. What am I supposed to say? Ain't gonna lie.
Cool. You guys ready?
Hold
Yep.
up.
Hold up. Wait up. Straight up. Hold up.
Music.
Waiting on audio.
Per the usual.
You don't have headphones?
Per the usual. Wait, let me check my bag real quick, but I'm pretty sure I don't have them in my bag.
We didn't do a formal mic test either, so if you want, we can...
You want to do one? Okay.
Yeah, we should probably check levels. I see them a little low, maybe. A little bit low. You can bring me up. Keep bringing me up. Keep bringing me up. Right about there. That sounds good.
Sweet.
Jeremy, you talk.
Jeremy talks.
Bring
Talks
Jeremy
right
down
here.
just a little bit.
You've always got to bring Jeremy down. Bring
You're a
Jeremy
loud
down.
mouth, dude.
I am.
Bring Jeremy. All right, keep talking over me, Jeremy.
Talking over Strauns.
Perfect.
Talking
Adam, you talk.
Syphilis.
All right, you got me.
Bring yourself up, Adam, a little bit.
Bringing me up a little bit. Am I
Keep
good? Am I good?
talking. Yep, right there. That sounds
All
good.
right, I think we're ready
How's
to go.
the
Let me,
EQ looking over there on?
Looks pretty good. I mean, do you like your voice?
Yeah, I guess so. It's fine.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Let's get this before my computer dies.
Oh gosh. I got them loaded on my computer as well. So,
Okay, ready?
3, 2.
Hey, this is Jeremy. Thanks for listening to the podcast. You can check out more great content on threeheadedeagle.com. Also find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. New podcasts go live on Saturday, so be sure to subscribe to the weekly podcast on iTunes and Stitcher.
Today's Supreme Court decisions reflect the state of American politics.
That's your money.
Southwest border
That is
from Mexico.
your money.
Has the federal government kept us safe, or does it just want us to think that it has kept us safe?
It's the battlefield of ideas. Ideas, inspiration, information. Welcome to the Three-Headed Eagle Show.
And welcome to the program.
You totally steamrolled my intro.
Adam totally thought that he was hosting today. I hijacked it.
You totally hijacked it.
I
I was going to
apologize,
welcome our Periscope viewers. Give you guys a hard time for
I
not
said welcome
noticing
to the
my
program.
haircut.
That's everybody listening.
Yeah, well, I guess so.
Noticing your haircut. Your hair looks exactly the same as it has for the last, 7 years.
You are a liar, sir. I was bald for a little while. Remember?
That's true. You
Shaved my
were
head.
bald for a little while. And
But my
Strauss,
hair
of course,
does
was
it.
the exact opposite.
Yeah. Well, my hair hasn't changed as much as Strans's, that's for sure. But we are here. We are ready. And we have some good stuff to talk about. Welcome, everybody, to the Three-Headed Eagle podcast.
Already did that.
I'm so derailed because of you, Jeremy. All right, so we have a few topics. Jeremy, do you want to start?
I do want to start.
Clearly you do, since you hijacked my intro.
You have no idea where to go from here now, do you?
Now, real quick, Periscope people, you can message us and you can hit us up on Twitter. We are live, so if you hit us up on Twitter or Facebook, we can get that, and maybe we can respond. So we'll try that out. We haven't tried that out yet.
Good times. All right. So, actually, you know what we want to start off with? You wanted to bring up Sarah Palin, didn't you?
Oh, gosh. Oh, well, I wanted to bring up that I hate her right now.
I do too.
I've never had the inclination to hit a lady, so that's not the hatred. That's not the hatred here.
That's not the kind of hatred?
No.
Different brand.
Different brand.
What sort of brand?
You know that when you walk into a room and something just smells, and as you get closer, it smells worse and worse and worse, and you're just like, oh, disgusted by it. That's how I feel about Trump.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And now as she moved in, it's like you're moving closer to that smell.
Oh.
You know, it's just getting worse and worse and worse.
So, no, wait. Is it you don't like Sarah Palin based strictly on the Donald Trump? Okay, so for those of you who didn't know, Sarah Palin went to Iowa, and Donald Trump really awkwardly stood right next and slightly behind her while she spoke for like 10 or 12 minutes.
And she doesn't like. Well, his whole facade is like, oh, I'm my own man. I'm not part of the political machine. And then he brings in Sarah Palin, who's just like a gimmick.
Right. And she endorsed him in really awkward form. Really awkward form for Sarah Palin. Never heard Sarah Palin swear before. Never thought that Sarah Palin might swear. Right? But
Right.
And I'm not like so offended that I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she said the A word. Right? And no, I don't really care, but it just caught my ear because I was like, wait a minute. Did she just say, yeah, she literally got up and said, we need to talk about kicking ISIS's ass. I'm just like, for real?
And that's fine. That's all fine and well, whatever. It's a little out of character, and it was really awkward.
It was.
But more than
Super
that,
awkward.
it's just like, who is she now?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Why is she relevant?
Well, no, I'm saying, who is she now, as in, where did this new person come from?
Oh,
And
she's changed.
This is actually what bothers me most about the situation. It's not just, okay, she's endorsing Donald Trump. We shouldn't be that mind-blown by this. This should not be that much of a surprise. Because remember who she endorsed in the Arizona Senate race?
Oh, John McCain.
John McCain. Now, that was her former running mate. I get it.
But she also endorsed Ted Cruz and helped him in his campaign.
Yeah,
right?
and she was supposed to be this Tea Party person. She actually told not Michelle Obama, Michelle
Malkin?
not Michelle Malkin. Real Tea Party girl. She ran 4 years ago. She's Congress. She's got like 17,000 children. Why can I not think of her name?
I don't know who you're talking
From
about.
Minnesota. She was the only. I think she's from Minnesota. She's the only She was the only female that ran in the presidential Republican ticket last year. Anyway.
Duffy? Hamilton? Benson?
No. For crying out loud.
Bachman.
Michelle Bachmann.
Yeah. Then there was her.
Yeah, anyway, she had this, not argument, but this sort of, maybe like Facebook or Twitter feud or some kind of media feud with Michelle Bachmann, because Michelle Bachmann was saying, yeah, I'm a Tea Party candidate. The Tea Party backed me up. Tea Party should back me up for president. And this was before they had all the candidates had actually started coming together and saying, yeah, we're actually running. It was just people saying, well, I might run. Yeah. Before anybody was even running, Sarah Palin tried to claim the Tea Party as her own and said, hey, Michelle Bachmann, I established this constituency. This is my constituency. Like, boom, mic drop. I'm like, really? You're Tea Party, huh? Because you endorsed John McCain and now you're endorsing freaking Donald Trump. Give me a break. The Donald.
I think her career swings on trying to stay relevant. She's like the reality star of politics, and she's just jumping on that bandwagon.
I think the endorsement does more for her than it does for Donald Trump.
I think in some ways it hurts him because I think it rallies the true conservative base better. Because she's not. I think she's shown her true stars. I mean, you have the evangelical right, following her and saying, "Oh, Bristol Palin is so great," and all this stuff. She's really bounced back from her struggles, but then it's like
I don't know anything
one
about Bristol
mess
Palin. I'm
after
saying
another,
and I don't know, and I don't care either. So
but
we don't need to go
it's
into it.
it's this weird. I feel like it's this weird she was kind of a voice of these conservative women and conservative evangelicals and things like that, and now you're like, who who is she? She's irrelevant. She clearly just kind of bounces around and tries to make political moves that don't really go anywhere.
And coming out there and literally like yelling into the microphone and being like she's the female Donald Trump. Like talking sort of in circles, not making a whole lot of sense. I actually kind of feel bad for her in the same way that I feel bad for people like Orrin Hatch.
Yeah.
Because I think when she was in, I almost said Australia, no, Alaska. When she was in Alaska, I think she might have actually been a, fairly conservative candidate.
Fairly.
Not on everything, but I think she was probably a fairly conservative candidate. I bet a lot of Tea Party could actually agree with her on a lot of things, even if they did look into her. I think she's just been around the mainstream political crowd too long. I think it was literally you took a country bumpkin and threw her into Washington, D.C. and just freaking ruined any good part of her. So I'm just going to officially write off her soul as dead, put her in the John McCain category. She is, Sarah Palin is officially the Sarah Palin zombie.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to think of, the nature of our political system, right? The way we do things with the election and this whole, like, carnival, the circus of entertainers. Is there any way to escape that? When you have a country full of people who just don't care, and the amount that they do care is the amount that they care about, like, anything in Hollywood. It's like surface level. Oh, I want to watch the Oscars, but I haven't seen those movies. I don't know who made them. I don't know who wrote it. I just know it won, best screenplay. Right. They know who the actors are. Oh, Leo is, nominated, or so and so wasn't nominated. But it's like so shallow. They don't even know what went into making the movie. They don't know what that person did in terms of like what they did to prepare for acting. And I feel like it's the same thing with politics. You have these entertainers up there who are kind of this surface level: Sarah Palin, Donald Trump, Jeb Bush, Hillary Clinton. Maybe Bernie Sanders goes a little bit deeper. Like he seems like he's got thoughts that are his own.
Yeah,
he actually thinks sometimes.
I don't think they're his own thoughts. I think he borrows thoughts mostly from the Communist Manifesto.
Sure. But he's thought about it. He's probably he's read.
But
he
read
the
Communist Manifesto. We got to give him that.
Right.
And even Rand Paul. I think Rand Paul like hides maybe his thoughts, and I think a lot of them do. Right? You, as a human being, you can't not think for yourself unless you're some kind of Manchurian candidate or something like that. But I don't know, how do you get around it when you just have a bunch of people who only show up for the Super Bowl? You know what I mean?
That is a good question. I've never considered that, but I think people do look forward to elections like they look forward to the Super Bowl. But, and I've compared that a lot of times and said, yeah, people cheer like after after elections and stuff like that. People cheer for their team like they just won, a football game or something of that sort. And it's like, our country really hinges on, these elections and what just happened and what the people are going to do now. And, like, I think even an elected candidate, look, if Rand Paul got elected, and everybody knows I like Rand Paul as my favorite candidate still, even though it looks like he's probably doesn't have that good of a chance, still my favorite.
Know. That 4% that he's got is a solid 4.
Solid 4%. It has not gone below 4.
No.
Solid.
Bounces between 4 and 5 all day long.
But he's still my favorite, but even if he wins, I'm not going to be cheering like it's a football game. I'm going to be saying, okay, cool, awesome. I'm so excited that you got elected, and now I've got my eye on you. And if you screw up, I will be the first person to fight against you. And if you do something stupid, I'll be the first person to talk about it. Because I will jump over Adam at the show intro just to talk about it. I will literally be the first.
Well, I mean, to go back to the football analogy, it's like, the Cardinals are, let's say, the Cardinals are going to go to the Super Bowl, and all of a sudden all the people in Arizona are suddenly Cardinals fans.
I'm not. I just want to say that now. I don't care how good they do. I'm not.
But you have your diehard fans who like follow it and they watch ESPN and they pay attention. They know the players. They know who's injured. They know where the coach went to college and all that stuff. And then you have the people who jump on the bandwagon because that's the popular team and they want to root for their state or the people they think are cool or whatever. That's what I did growing up in Iowa. Iowa doesn't have a professional football team, so you just pick whoever's popular that year. Like, I like the Cowboys. Growing up, I really liked the Cowboys because the Cowboys were really good. And you have all these people show up, and like for politics, like the election doesn't matter at all. It really doesn't, because like just someone being elected does nothing,
Right.
unless they do something after it.
Right.
It's the bills they endorse, the laws they pass, the choices and decisions they make after the fact, and no one cares about that.
I think one of the worst things that we could do is put in a mediocre Republican and go, oh, okay, good, we fixed it. We're good, everybody. All right, let's go to sleep for 8 years. Let's go to sleep for 8 years. It honestly would be it'd be worse than a Democrat win.
That's what happened in the last time. I remember the midterm election after 2008. So this is 2010 midterm election. There was a huge shift in Congress, right? They had like the 7 things that they were going to do, that they were going to put on the president's desk and make him get rid of it or whatever. I think one of them happened. And so they really
I think you're thinking of the 12 and 12.
Was it the 12
items, 12 weeks?
Oh, yeah. That's what it is.
That was actually for the last one. I think 2010 they also had like the Tea Party.
Like a list of things that they wanted their candidates to do, and nothing got done.
Yeah.
I think of it even in terms of like this last budget, the omnibus bill, right? That
Cromnibus. Was it Cromnibus this time, I think?
I don't remember. It's nonsense either way.
I'm tired of the nibuses. Any of them.
But essentially it was just like, hey, let's fund everything regardless. And all this talk about, Planned Parenthood, defund Planned Parenthood, which is like pennies in the bucket. I agree with the moral argument that we should not be funding Planned Parenthood. But it's pennies, right? It really doesn't make a difference to the debt. Everything got funded. They just said, we're just going to keep with the status quo.
Right.
Nobody paid attention.
Right.
They paid attention to that probably less than they paid attention to the last Democratic debate.
Which
is pretty low.
They wrapped up early. Did you guys see that?
Yeah.
It actually, they're like, yeah, well, I don't know what else we should talk about, so everybody have a good night. Go home early.
And it was during like football games on a Sunday night.
It's terrible.
So it's just kind of nonsense that if you swing it the other direction, that you think things are going to get done, at least the way you'd like them to get done. Because I think one of the biggest problems is I can look it up, but I was reading this article about, there was a study done where they looked at like popularity polls on certain topics versus voting consistency of Congress, and it was like whether you're Democrat, Republican, whether it's controlled by Democrats or Republicans, it's like 30%. 30% of their votes agree with the American people, no matter what. And so it's this frustration where it's like, yeah, you get your person and you have your team, right, that you're rooting for. Oh, let's win. And then after the win happens, you feel like the game's over. When really, that's just like the coin toss. Like that's when you start putting the feet to the fire. That's when you start pushing. That's when you start harassing and saying, hey, look, your term's 6 years, Senator. You want to be fired? I know it's day 2, but on day 2, you need to start your freaking work.
Right.
And I think there's only a handful
Day 1,
of guys.
you're allowed to stand around and shake hands and
at least
get to know
celebrate
people.
a little bit. It's day 2. And that's the reality of it. I think that's what happened. Because nobody remembers that. This big promise from the GOP that they were going to get stuff done and change things. At least make Barack Obama make the decisions.
I remember just this last election, it was the 12 and 12. And if I remember right, they tried to say one of them happened, but not even it really happened. But the thing is, this last election, it was just a sham. The things that they were putting up were like, oh yeah, we're going to repeal Obamacare. And I'm like, really? You think you're going to get a veto majority on that? Veto-proof majority on that? I don't think so.
Right.
No. And
But
so
even
it was
still, the idea was like, at least put it on the president's desk.
I agree with
it's
it in
him
principle, because you can't just go to
doing
sleep and say, well, for the next 2 years, we're going to do nothing because he won't sign it anyway.
Right.
You have to say, look, we have been trying. We've been trying to repeal it and everything. But in actuality, it was, they're doing nothing, which is why the president is now doing executive orders for gun control and stuff like that, because he knows he can't get anything accomplished any other way.
Right.
Which,
But even the
sounds negative when I say it, but to me, that's actually a positive.
But even the things
I'm
that
glad
they
he
did do that I think were pretty good in trying to fight against the status quo. They were done by people who were hated by the establishment. Because people are always like, oh yeah, Republicans just want to shut the government down and you won't get your Social Security checks and like all this nonsense, which we reported on the podcast that was nonsense, right? Like the government shutdown equated to about like 20% of the total government system.
I think it was supposed to only be 15, but Barack Obama actually shut down more than he had to.
Because he wanted people to feel it.
Yeah.
And what did he do? He shut down national parks.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah, you can't go to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
You can't see the Washington Monument.
And the reason why he did that
from
was
anywhere in
specifically
Washington.
because it hurt the states
Right.
that were fighting against him, and it hurt the tourists.
Right.
So, because the Grand Canyon makes Arizona tons of money every year, so he
Right.
shuts it down to hurt Arizona. So it's just nonsense. But the reality is, in that storyline, they promote their gear. I imagine them as being like Sony. If you're in film or production, you always like joke about how like Sony has this great technology, but they really suck at marketing. Like they don't get the information out. So even in that fight where they actually did something good, they're like, look, we're going to pass all these individual spending bills so that we can keep the government running, but we're not going to pass a long-term budget that throws us into more debt. Is that a good idea? Yes, I think that's a great idea. Ted Cruz goes in, he filibusters to let that ball start rolling, right? The government shutdown and taking a stand. But what ends up happening? No one talks about it that way. They talk about it as if he did something terribly wrong. Even conservative talk show hosts are like giving him crap about standing his ground on that issue. So what happens is you have these like, it's kind of a strong term, but these kind of the neoconservatives, right? Where they're like, oh, the Republican Party will get things done because they're going to force it to get done. Well, that's not how our government's supposed to work.
Right.
You're just being the same as the Democrats with different goals.
Right.
It's still not more free market. It's still not more liberty. It's still more government. You're just have an R by your name instead of a D by your name. Like,
right.
It's the same. And even the guys that hold their ground and actually try to do something that they promised their constituency they would do, they get backlash from it. Because got to keep that 30%. That okay, we don't really care what the population thinks. We're just going to keep the power right here, keep the status quo going, keep the spending going. It's just a bunch of nonsense.
So, Strauns, your original question was actually, how do we stop the football game? And the answer is, I don't know.
I don't think you can.
I mean, honestly, the way to do it is for everybody on Earth to just decide to wake up one person. Every educated person, everybody that says, yeah, I pay attention, I'm just going to wake up one person. I'm going to find that person that looks like they might be able to pay attention or thinks that they're paying attention already and just try to wake up one person.
I think it's just like football. I mean, there are fans of football, and there are people who don't give a crap about football. Mm-hmm. And then there's the people who kind of like perk up once the Super Bowl comes around.
Yeah.
Or like the Olympics or anything. But like most people, you'd be like, hey, football's on. Like, let's go watch. What game is it? It's like the 5th game of the season. Like, well, why would I watch that? No, I'm gonna do my own thing, right?
I have the exact same reaction, but I also have the same reaction when they say it's the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I'm like, exactly. Why would I do that?
But with politics, it's the same thing. Because, I mean, how many people do you talk to? And I'm sure you guys are like me, where you talk to somebody, and they're like, yeah, well, this is what we talked about a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. That's just the way it is. Man, aren't you, like, upset about these taxes? Or aren't you, like, every time I turn around, there's something pissing me off about the way that our system is built. Because we have this problem, right, where when this country was founded, it was kind of like starting from scratch. Mm-hmm. You know, we had other models to look from. We saw what worked, what didn't work, and they're kind of like, okay, let's take this from over here. Let's try and match it with this. No, that's going to make some problems, so let's do this thing instead. That's worked out well. Let's never do that over there. Let's make this nice, really solid foundation. Figure it out. You know, yes, there will be some problems, but like hopefully this is a strong foundation. It turned out that it was pretty strong. And time goes by, and things get built on that foundation, and the house goes up, and then the guest house goes up and the wing extension and the souped up garage and the spa and the tennis court, and you're building this whole like estate, right? And then stuff like has problems, right? They didn't use the right wood for one building, and then the other one, like they didn't even have windows, so it's just drafty as hell. And the other place they can't get AC to, and they're building this whole estate. And then now we're at this point where we're just like, man, we got so many problems. Let's build another mansion. And, you know, and we're all like sitting around going like, no, let's go fix that rotting wood. Let's go put some windows on this building over here. Let's worry about that first before we go do this new thing. And they're like, no, you guys are living in the past. That's just the way it is. That house will, that building's always going to be rotted. There's never going to be windows on that one. You're like, but that's where I live, you know, that's where you've put me, and I don't want to be there. If you're not going to like actually take care of what we already have before we start doing all these other things. And we just keep expanding, doing more and more and more. We're going to fix immigration. We're going to balance the budget. We're going to fix healthcare because we tried to fix it, you know, just recently, but that didn't really work out so well. So we're going to try and fix it again. And oh, we've got climate change to worry about. And oh, we got all these wars. What should we do? Should we do more war, less war? And you're like, and then we have all the systems in place that are just like day to day that everyone has to deal with. That's just the way it is. And you get to a point where like we've built a system that, because people are the way that people are, one little thing, one bad law that goes through or one bad decision that's made gets like set in stone, and it's really hard to undo it. You know, we're talking about Obamacare, but think of all the, even little stuff that's just like taxes. I know I talk about it every week, but it's like tax time is coming up. I've got to go to a business to help me do taxes, because doing them yourself, let's be real, no one does that. Or you pay TurboTax, right? You get software to do it.
Right.
But you've got to pay for someone else to help you do something that you have to do every single year. So you have to do that. And then once you pay those people, you have to pay the government even more. And that depends on like who you are and what you've done and how much money you've made, but also how much money you've spent and how many kids you've got. And do you own a home or don't you? And all these stupid rules, like where are your investments at? How much did you put towards health? How much didn't you put towards health? And you're like, and then, you know, you pay that and you're just like, well, that's just the way it is. Like, I'm just so frustrated with the systems we have in place, because it should be simpler, right? Like, you guys live your life. You have your house. You got your family. You do things day in and day out, right? Got to get groceries, got to do laundry. And every device, every product, every service out there is to make your life simpler. Right? Like TurboTax. It's simple. Tax is made easy. Oh, you want groceries delivered to your house because you don't have time to go to the store? We'll do it for you. It's really easy. And yet we have these systems in our government that are, oh, that's just the way it is. And it's like, couldn't it be easier? Couldn't we just do a flat tax for everyone? Fair tax, whatever. Just simplify it, right? Couldn't we just simplify healthcare? Like, why do we have all these rules and regulations around it? Yeah, we got to have some, but like, why do we have so many? You know, why do we have all these different policies that just like suck the life out of everything? Like if that were a business, the business would fail, right?
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know what you do until you get somebody who's just like, we're going to fix this beat up old house and make it right. But people don't want to hear that. They want to hear, we're going to fix immigration. We're going to fix, you know, terrorism or whatever. And yeah, those are important things to focus on. I'm not saying we shouldn't, but I want somebody talking about like, okay, let's also fix some of the stuff that's just, maybe it's easy stuff too, right? Don't you think there's probably things out there that could be bipartisan, that people come together and be like, hey, let's just, you know, real quick, spend a week, spend a month, and just get this done.
I think there are things that should be that way,
but they're not.
But
Yeah,
I don't
I
think
would
there
say-
is a single issue that you would actually get past that way. I mean, the things that, when you look at like Senate votes, the things that they pass, like 98-0.
Yeah.
And the only reason it's not 100 is because two guys weren't there. Like somebody had a heart attack or something because they're all, 1,000 years old.
Or they saw it and they were like, my vote's not going to count, so I'm not going to show up.
Right.
That kind of thing?
Yeah, that kind of thing. Are things like a resolution thanking Dave Smith because he did something very brave.
Sure.
And it's like, okay, thank you for doing something very brave, Dave Smith. We're all not making fun of that. I'm just saying it's all something that is just so blatantly obvious and really has no bearing on what direction the country is going to go. Everything else, I mean, even things that you would think are just freaking small, and like, oh, this is common sense. We can do this, right? No, they'll fight, or they'll say, well, I'm only going to do that if you vote for my bill, which says that speaking is illegal. Okay, so it's like, wait,
Yeah.
mine only, reduces 2 tax loopholes that I heard you complain about them. Why won't you vote for it? It's like, well, you got to vote for my speaking is illegal bill.
Yeah, and that's what I guess how I would feel is I don't think you can get bipartisan support. Not real bipartisan support where you actually get things done, and I think that's the exact reason is because, well, I think there's two reasons. I think you always have your own agenda, right? So people want their agenda noticed. They can't do something for somebody else without somebody addressing their agenda. And 2, I think if you get things done, then there's nothing to get done. And power comes with somebody trusting you to do something, right? So the reason why Hitler came to power wasn't because he did things illegally. He did it because people were looking for an authoritarian figure to do things for them, right? So the people in power need to have a reason for you to send them to do something. And that maintains their power. That's how we keep paying them. There's some state legislatures that meet twice a year. And those states primarily just say, we let our citizens...
I think Texas is once.
Yeah.
Once a year.
So when you have those circumstances, then you start to go, wait, why are we paying these guys so much? Okay, yeah, let's pay them to be there, and let's make sure they're compensated so that they show up and do their jobs and have their team research the bills. I get that. But they're not running the world. We run our own lives, and it's fine. But that's the problem, is they need to exist. So they create situations which are like, oh, well, we have this big debate, or we need to do this, we have this work to do. When really in the back door, you're like, this could have been handled in 2 phone calls. Well, what's taking so long? So you have to create this drummed up problem. Why do you think that the border never gets secured? Well, it's because it's a great talking point on both sides. You can have an amazing immigration system with a wall. We could be basically open borders with a wall. But we're not going to be, because you say, well, let's build a wall, and all of a sudden it's a debate about the economy and about the racism and about crime and about drug cartels and about families and split families and dreamer kids, and it's like, let's open up this huge can of worms when really all it is hey, we would just really want our border secure. Can we do that? I mean, how much does it cost? Oh, it costs like a week's worth of national income. Okay, well, why don't we do it? It's going to supply jobs, right? You like public works programs. Why don't we do that? That
should be one of those blatantly obvious things.
But
because it's not an immigration issue. A wall is not an immigration issue, right? Having a wall up doesn't mean that like you said, you can have open borders and still have a wall there. You're just saying, okay, you have to come in through that door. Right? There's a wall there for a reason. You have to come in through the door, and you walk through the metal detector, right? Just like when you go into a courthouse, right? A courthouse has walls around it, but it doesn't mean you can't go in, right? You walk in through the metal detector, they're like, okay, you're good. Right? So it's not an immigration issue. It should be one of those common sense things where, we're going to put up a fence, and that'll help control.
We'll shift a lot of the work of the border security people to help screen people coming in so that it's a quicker and more efficient process. Really simple, bipartisan, right? You have your works project and building the wall. You have a more efficient immigration system for people who want to come here. But you get to stop crime more efficiently and help the people. So it fixes the problem. But guess what? When you fix the problem, you no longer need the people there to fix the problem.
Right.
I'm not on this wall bandwagon. It's not an immigration issue. It's a prison issue.
It's a prison issue?
Walls,
America will be prison.
Walls keep people out, but they also keep people in.
So how many times are you escaping to Mexico?
Yeah, I was going to say, how many times have you just been off-roading and been like, man, I'm going to go hit Mexico. I think I'll just drive across this dirt. Go to Mexico.
I mean, if they build it good enough and it lasts long enough, who's to say where we're going to be 50 years from now? And we all want to escape, but we can't because there's this big wall in the way. I'm like, Damn, we really shot ourselves in the foot.
Well, funny thing about
Shot
prisons,
ourselves in the legs.
I've seen prisons, and you know what a candy cane is when I'm referring to a prison candy cane? A prison fence is shaped like a candy cane,
Oh, yep.
right? Has a curl at the top. Top is razor
yeah,
wire,
yeah.
right? You ever notice?
I thought it was like something inmates stuck up their butt or something.
Probably. I wouldn't be a bit surprised. Just,
Hey,
whoop, here you go,
you
buddy.
want a
Merry
piece of candy
Christmas.
cane?
That's for you. No, you know, if you ever notice which direction the candy cane is pointed,
Yeah, it's in.
the
It
curl,
keeps you
yeah,
from
pointed
climbing
in.
out. Yeah.
So the fence isn't actually going to keep anybody. You could get into prison if you really, really wanted to, and they would keep you there probably because they'd be like, yeah, you know, breaking into prison is a crime, and you're here now. So, and if I remember right, we actually had somebody do it in Arizona, like trying to escape a hit or something like that, and so they broke into prison. Like
Really?
bought an orange jumpsuit or something because they thought that was what they wear, but there's no jumpsuits in our like. There is in our state, like downtown, like the we keep you here for a week until we decide what actual prison you're going to. They wear jumpsuits. That's the only one. Anyway, I heard that story. Could totally be prison lore. I don't know. But so anyway, well,
Jimmy, he snuck in 10 years ago. He's been here ever since.
yeah, 3 meals, man. 3 meals in a bed. Sometimes a bed, that is. We actually did have some inmates sleeping on the floor a few times. No joke. We gave them a mattress, but it was a mattress on the floor. And it's a prison mattress, so it's essentially just like foam inside of plastic.
But isn't a normal prison bed like on a slab of aluminum?
It's on a concrete slab anyway.
Right, so like
Either
what's the
concrete
difference?
yeah, it's really not that different.
I've never understood that about beds. You like put something soft on something hard to elevate it for some reason. You just put it on the floor.
I think it's easier to get out. I think that's what it is, especially like for old people.
I'm not an old person.
But I know. However, if you put your mattress on the floor these days, you'll get insane bed bugs eventually. Just so
yeah?
that you know. Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
That's worst cases around are mattress on the floor for bed bugs.
That's true.
Oh,
and I think
good
your
to know.
wife's a little grateful that her mattress isn't on the floor.
No, I know, but it looks nice. It looks nice.
Isn't
but
your wife's like about a year and a half pregnant now? So anyway, so hey, speaking of courthouses and going inside, since that was what I was last talking about, we've
Nice
moved on since then. But
transition.
yeah, thanks,
Very
I appreciate it. I told you guys at the beginning of the show we got this Texas headline on ABAjournal.com. Says Texas courthouse gun bans are being reconsidered based on the state attorney general's opinions.
I'm glad his opinions are reconsidering gun bans.
Yeah. Okay. So you're glad that maybe
I don't know
people
why
in
his
Texas
opinion should matter. Isn't a law?
Well, the attorney general's opinion matters only because he's the guy that actually decides who to prosecute.
Sure.
And also, this was actually interesting. As I read through the article, it said that the Texas legislature, who meets only once a year, as we established earlier, it said that they authorized the attorney general to sue government entities that ban firearms improperly in their buildings. So say you have like a municipality, a city or something like that, and they've got their, their town square or their, whatever they've got, and they say, oh, no firearms in our town square here, you can't have it. So the Attorney General of Texas is authorized by the state legislature to prosecute those people for not allowing someone to have their Second Amendment rights. Civil rights violation case, essentially.
Interesting. I kind of like
so
that.
this is
idea.
like courthouses, like everything, like where you have to go. I mean, we're talking about Texas, but like here in Arizona, most government buildings, you go through a metal detector and you can't bring
Right.
firearms.
Yeah. This one, what they're saying, the Attorney General's opinion said that, okay, so Texas has a law that says you can't have a firearm on the premises of any government court or offices utilized by the court. So Paxton, who is the Attorney General of Texas, just defined premises really narrowly. So he's saying premises, yeah, that's, like we said, the court or their office. But if you're just walking down the hallway, you can have a firearm. As long as you're licensed. Because in Texas, surprisingly, they actually have more strict gun laws than we do in Arizona. Which, pretty proud of. We are less strict than Texas. I like that. But at any rate, so he's saying, yeah, if you're just walking around the hallway, you're not actually going into the court with the judge. Maybe you just have to walk in and submit a document to the secretary and then walk back out. No reason you shouldn't have a gun. What do you guys say?
I don't see a problem with that. I think anybody who's going to carry a gun in there legally statistically isn't going to be doing any crime there.
Right.
So I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah, but guns are just super dangerous.
Yeah, huh?
This is. Are you channeling your wife on this one?
No, man. Guns kill people.
I know, Strong. Guns kill people.
Hey, cars kill
all the
people,
time.
and no one's bringing their car into the courthouse.
Exactly.
That's true.
Sure.
That is
Exactly.
true.
That's right.
I've never seen anybody attempt that even.
Yep.
Nope.
See? Same.
So my first thought is, okay, because there's a lot of people, there's a judge that spoke out and said, it's just common sense to not have a gun in a courthouse.
Is it?
I'm like, is it? Why? Because, like, the bad guy can still come in and shoot you. Like, he'll just have to get through a few security guards first, right?
Which mostly aren't carrying.
Which, yeah, well, I mean, at our federal building, our federal courthouse, they're U.S. Marshals, and so they're carrying.
But they're police, but normal courthouses for...
courthouse security guards.
Yeah, don't carry
usually
sidearms.
not. And even if they did, action is faster than reaction.
Yep.
A really, really angry guy walking through the door, and there's two security guards, and he's like, I just want a piece of that judge, and I know he's in session right now. Their sessions are public. They're posted on their website. You can know when a guy is going to be in his courtroom, right? So the judge, I'm assuming, is trying to keep himself safe, which who can blame him, right?
Sure,
He wants
yeah.
to stay safe, and he knows, especially like, you help put criminals away, right? You sentence people. You could have a really pissed off guy someday. So I'm not mocking that scenario at all. But do you have a better chance with more people in your courtroom having guns or less people in your courtroom having guns?
Right.
Wait, so you think that the whole deal for this is they don't want guns around for the one man or woman who happens to be the judge? It's to
They don't
protect
want
that one person.
to protect the judges. I think so. I mean, I don't know why else. I mean, I guess courtrooms can get pretty heated. I guess that's what they're thinking.
Well, I think I buy that. It's, a judge sentencing people is likely a target for, revenge of some kind.
Right.
But where does the judge sit? Is it the bench?
Yeah.
So just get like what the Pope has, but make like a bulletproof glass bench, right?
Right.
And that's what they're in there.
So you don't even have to say permission to approach the bench anymore. You would just have like one of those vacuum tubes like you have at the bank.
Yeah.
You'd be like, yeah, I would like to submit this piece of evidence. Let me see that. Okay. And it just
Exactly.
shoots out, and he's like, okay. Yeah, you can show this to the jury. Goes to the jury. They're all in a box.
Yeah.
I mean, the Pope's a target, so the Pope is in a big glass box.
Not the current Pope, but you're right.
he
Yeah,
doesn't ride in
he's got a Pope mobile.
And you know what? If that's the Pope's choice, there could be a judge that's like, I don't need that. Get it out of my courtroom. Fine. We'll haul it out and give you the regular bench.
It really isn't a bad idea because he actually comes in from his chambers anyway.
Right.
It really wouldn't be a very difficult security measure to put
It
some
would be like a
bulletproof
bank.
glass in front of a judge if he's actually that worried about it.
Banks do it all the time.
Yeah.
Your teller's behind a piece of glass.
Right.
No big deal. Mm-hmm. And even if you did it even
Or gas stations in the ghetto.
right.
They do it too.
I mean, there's a lot of ways you could do it. You could do it where you have to check in at a courthouse anyway before your hearing most of the time.
Right.
So you just check in first, and when they run your information, they'll know if you're a felon or not.
So what if it's not that? What if it's, and I just thought of another one. Another one that could get really heated all the time. Let's say you're in there for a divorce case. Right? And crazy lady brings a gun in, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to pick on the crazy lady this time because every time we hear gun violence, it's always, let's say a guy walks in with a gun. No.
he's
you
a
know what?
white male.
This time, it's a crazy chick. Okay?
Okay.
And guy's like, yeah, well, when I found out she cheated on me, then I decided that I was going to leave her, and I want to keep all my stuff because he makes all the money, right? And she just goes berserk, pulls the gun out. Now what?
Well, couldn't that just happen anywhere?
Yeah, it could. That's
Couldn't she just wait until they left?
Like, that's just...
she could. She could wait till they left. They could, I mean,
crazy people
I've
are
been-
going to be crazy.
I've been through a divorce, and I can tell you, I was in the elevator with my ex all the way down. She was, my very, very freshly ex, right? All the way down the elevator, all the way out the front door. We parked in the same spot, and
Wait, in the same spot?
not the same spot, but we were parked in the same parking garage.
Okay.
So literally, I'm next to her all the way till we weren't on the same floor. But theoretically, and I didn't bring my firearm because I didn't want her to bring it up, and I thought she might. She's really kind of anti-gun, but she didn't. To her credit. Anyway, but I thought she might, so I just wanted to be able to say, no, I'm not carrying a gun today. I didn't think it would be
Guns?
a good idea.
No, they're dangerous.
Me?
I don't-
What? No, guns suck. Anyway,
They kill people.
I would, I tell the truth. Yeah, I have guns at my house. They're locked up in a case, and that's it. Anyway, so I wanted to sound as rational for this judge as I possibly could, right?
Because carrying a
So I
gun
did
is not
have it.
rational.
Right. Well, for a lot of judges, it's not. For a lot of judges, well, look at what this freaking judge said. So he thinks it's very, very much common sense to not bring one. So I didn't want to even say, well, it's in my truck. I left it in my truck.
Yeah.
Right? Because they'd be like, wait, well, why'd you bring it? Why'd you bring it in today?
Sure.
Well, what did you need it for? Didn't you park right next to your ex-wife? So the gun is near your ex-wife's car? I didn't want any of it.
Yeah.
So it's just like, yeah, just leave it. But anyway, the point of it is, I was parked very near my ex-wife's car. So really, if I'm all that pissed off for that situation, it could have gone down outside. Mm-hmm. I'm a rational thinking person, so it wasn't going to and never would. But yeah, in our little scenario here, or she could have gone
Right.
crazy, right? So what's the point? I guess in the moment they're trying to well, at least you got that time to walk outside and go for a walk and think about it and maybe calm down. I don't know. Maybe that's trying to put myself in the liberal shoes. Think how they think.
I think...
God. Oh, that hurt.
I think most... I don't know, maybe not most people, but people on the opposite side who are like, oh, the judge who said, oh, it's common sense,
Right.
Because those people, from their perspective, they're thinking that the only person who's going to bring a gun in is the crazy person.
Right.
So there's only going to be one gun in there, and it's going to be in the hands of a crazy person. But in reality, there's a lot of people who own guns and carry them with them on a regular daily basis.
Right.
And so you wouldn't just have one person in there. You'd have a bunch of people with guns.
Right. We actually have
Hopefully, maybe.
We have a viewer on Spotify or Periscope who's like, "What if your ex-wife brings a gun to shoot you, but since you're a better shot, you beat her to it?"
I think that's maybe not necessarily the ex story, but I think that's kind of the point of what we're saying.
Exactly.
Bad people come into places with guns, and we're a better shot, and so
And good people are there to defend the innocent.
right.
In a perfect world, that probably isn't going to happen because a lot of people are scared of guns. But at the same time, chances are maybe it's not just the one crazy person. Maybe there are a few around and someone can stop it. They have security guards.
But the thing is people don't report on a national basis when guns do save lives. Because it happens all the time.
Yeah.
Like, people defend innocent civilians all the time to shooters because they carry or have a sidearm.
But those are non-stories. Those are non-events.
Oh no?
Well, I mean, no innocent people died. Some bad dude died. So, okay,
Right.
whatever.
Well, it's not as exciting to some, but I think it's awesome. The
Oh, no,
problem is nobody hears
I
it.
know, I'm just...
Right. No, I get it. I think the reality is the argument's not made very well because people don't know the facts.
And it doesn't always happen that way. Oftentimes, a shooter goes into a space and no one has a gun.
Right.
No one can stop it, and it's a huge tragedy and it makes the news. But other times it does happen. So, I mean, I think that's why we've always talked about, responsible gun ownership. If you make it, you understand the danger involved.
Right.
And the fact that, yes, it is a weapon, a deadly weapon, but at the same time, treating it with respect and not just being afraid of it just because it's a gun.
Yeah. And that's true. I think that comes with familiarity. Like, people having the opportunity to be around guns, to know how they work, to understand safety in gun use and gun ownership. That's really the only way that people can become familiar with it. Like the first time a lot of people drive a car, now this wasn't my case, I was like, yeah, this is awesome. But the first time somebody pulls onto the freeway or pulls out into traffic and has to like maneuver around with a car, it's usually a little nerve-wracking. They're just like, oh, this is dangerous. I'm not sure. Or the first time you ride a motorcycle.
I'd say motorcycle's a better example.
Yeah,
because
it's dangerous.
There's
scary.
more risk,
Yeah, and there's some risk, right?
I don't know anybody who's too nervous the first time they drive a motorcycle and
Crash it
maybe
into a
crash
car.
it, and T-bone a car and fly over the hood. I don't know anybody like that.
Weird.
Aside from myself.
But that's a good example. Motorcycle is a great example where you're just a little nervous, right?
And because
something could go wrong.
You
right?
know it can happen, but if you take the time to practice and
take
be
precautions,
safe and take your time and do all those things, then you have a better shot. It's not to say that like nothing's going to happen. You're bulletproof now, but it's a little bit more
It's a lot
risky
safer.
than in a car.
But yeah, and that's the thing is, a lot of people need to understand that guns inherently aren't. There's no moral connection to a gun. A
Right.
gun is just an object. It's a tool that can be used for moral, immoral things, but there's no morality sitting there in that hunk of metal and plastic on the table. So that's the reality of it.
Hey, Jeremy,
Yeah.
I hope you know this.
Yes, buddy.
Hamilton and Burr, their duel
Uh-huh.
with the guns.
Yeah.
Why did they do that? What was that dispute over?
I don't know that answer because I try to pretend like Hamilton didn't exist after he helped ratify the Constitution. I literally know that the duel happened. I know that Hamilton was opposed to dueling, kind of interesting, and that he actually talked James Monroe out of a duel with Aaron Burr earlier. So I know all of that, but I do not know what the duel was over.
See, because I think that's interesting that that's how disputes were settled at one point. They were like,
Right.
"Hey, I challenge you to a duel. All right, one of us is going to die, probably."
Actually,
Okay.
a lot of times they go through the first round, but since those guns really they weren't accurate
Be
at all.
like, all right,
They'd
reload.
be like, do we still want to do this?
You'd end up with 2 dead people on your hands these
Yeah?
days. Be like, all right,
yeah, it's so
here's your
accurate.
AK, here's my AK, and it's like the least accurate weapon we could find. It's like march 30 paces. Like 30 paces? Really? That's it? That's all we're gonna do? Like, all right, turn and fire, and it's just 2 dead people hit the floor. That's it. That's how a duel would work today.
But they knew that there was that someone was probably going to die.
Well, think about how war worked back then, though. It was essentially a duel with a whole bunch of people. Right? You'd line up 2,000 people, and you'd all walk up to each other and be like, okay, aim, fire, and you'd kill some of their guys, and then they'd do the same thing, and they'd kill some of your guys. You knew somebody was going to die, but you'd still march on out there, and there's people on the front row. I'd like to consider myself brave, but I'm telling you right now, if I was alive back then, I'd be like, yeah, I'll go to war. I'll fight for my country. I am in the 7th row, please.
Yeah. Well, so it looks like what had happened is after a long dispute between the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans, right? And Burr found a document that was written by Hamilton that was super critical of John Adams and was offensive.
Scandalous.
And he leaked the document, which led to...
WikiLeaks?
So he's related to Snowden, so it's kind of a bloodline
Aaron
thing.
Burr leaked some documents about stuff that Hamilton wrote.
Yeah.
How do you find? Was it in his diary?
How do you find a document back then?
Well, I guess it was circulating, but it was private amongst certain people, and then, so he came across
Those
it and
emails.
used it.
He didn't.
He had it on his private.
He saw
He saw his personal email.
He saw the Hillary emails.
Yeah.
That's what it was. He was one of the 12 people that got to see it,
Yes,
and he leaked it.
ended in a duel.
Holy cow.
At the bottom, it said "burn after reading," and no one did that.
It's so crazy.
So wait,
Awesome.
so Hamilton said some stuff about who?
It was a document that he was very critical in his writings towards John Adams. It looks like.
And that was why they had a duel.
Well, he leaked it, and it became a big issue, and that's what caused the problem. Well, that was like one of the things, because I guess it was like a long history of Burr and
Did it have something to do with
not
like a
liking
woman?
each other.
Did they like the same woman?
I thought I remembered there being some allegation
I
of
feel like
Hamilton
that's
being
like
with Burr's
it's
wife
like a
or
familiar
something.
tickle in the back of my brain.
Yeah,
but it
that's-
might just be from a soap opera. So
Yeah. And Hamilton was a massive piece of crap, so I wouldn't be surprised if he was like scamming
duel.
on Burr's wife. I don't like Hamilton. I don't know if he was actually a massive piece of crap. I shouldn't say that. I didn't like his politics, but he might have been a very good person at deep inside
everything
his
I've
heart
read, he seems
somewhere.
like a very arrogant person.
Yeah, I think he's kind of a prick, but I wasn't going to say that. I was trying to keep it on the positive, try to say some good things about him.
Got to have some confidence. I mean, was he maybe like Trump?
Hamilton was Trump of the founders.
Yeah, you think?
Yes,
he was the
so
Trump.
I don't think he was anywhere near being as arrogant or as ignorant. I mean, okay, this is why I say that. Read Hamilton's Federalist Papers. Read Trump's speeches. Right? I'm pretty sure if you asked,
Are they both
if you
rambling?
gave, if you gave Hamilton or if you gave Trump a paragraph of Hamilton and said, "Read this," then tell me what it means. I think he would fail in amazing, glorious fashion.
I think we established 2 years ago on this podcast that there's de-evolution.
Oh, yes.
We're devolving.
Yeah, we're
to just
devolving, for sure.
lumps of fat. And
So Trump is the de-evolution of
Idiocracy?
Hamilton.
right. You
Yeah,
gotta
I accept this.
You got to factor in the timeline, and when you
Right.
balance for the timeline, then I think,
Huh.
yeah.
Now I'm going to have to start looking at it and going, so who is de-evolved Patrick Henry? I have no idea. Maybe Cruz? I don't know.
Oh yeah.
It could be. I don't know. He's got the gift of gab, the man can talk. You gonna wrap us up, Adam?
Do we want to go into this next topic? How much time do we have?
Well, we got some time.
It was really simple. I started watching Bridge of Spies. Have you seen this?
No.
So essentially, it's
You started watching.
I started watching, didn't finish it. Essentially, I was working on something, and I'm saying essentially a lot, and I don't know why, but I was working on something, and
What
I
were
was
you
watching
working
the
on?
movie. I was cleaning.
Wait, you were cleaning too?
You're clean.
I was cleaning my house and watching. the
watching
movie.
Oh, I
Bridge of
thought
Spies.
you were playing video games.
Bridge of Spies isn't like the
Oh.
Avengers.
Well,
it's
that's
not like
the
a movie
thing.
where it's
that's
just
why
like
I didn't finish it, because I was like, I really like this movie, but I'm missing too much, right? So essentially, what it comes down to is there's a Russian spy and an American spy. The Russians caught the American, and the Americans caught a Russian spy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a lawyer who's played by Tom Hanks who is charged to defend the Russian spy, right?
Uh-huh.
And kind of negotiate and figure out.
he's
what
sort
they're
of
gonna
the
do.
de-evolved John Adams.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, and then throughout, there's always like, they're trying to get him to, and I haven't watched the whole movie, but from what I'm gathering, there's a group of agents in the FBI who are going to start to work on getting information from the lawyer, even though as his lawyer, he has certain constitutional rights.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know much about this, but how do you guys feel about the concept of foreign agents coming in and receiving like Miranda rights and constitutional rights? Because a lot of people, we often talk about how like, yeah, they're not actually constitutional rights; they're natural rights,
Right.
And the Constitution protects them,
Yeah.
right? So now we're talking about in the movie they're talking about like Russian spies back in the Cold War and like the 50s and 60s, stuff like that. Nowadays, a lot of people, when they think about like terrorists, we've even been catching people who are like possible defectors to ISIS or possible defectors to Al Qaeda, and they're being charged with treason and
We go Patriot Act on him, and they
right.
throw him in a hole, and we don't see him for 5 years.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of interesting because it's one thing if you're an American citizen. Is it another thing if you're not an American citizen?
No, it is not. Do you know what?
Because
if you
people
look
are
up
talking like it should be.
U.S. Code, you look up Section 1, page 1, very first thing that got codified as part of the U.S. law. You know what it is?
What's that?
Declaration of Independence.
Right.
How does it start? Hold these truths to be self-evident that
Right.
all men are created equal. Yeah?
Yeah.
That they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, among these life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Right?
Right.
That is the very first sentence of United States law. All men are equal, and all of them have certain rights. Our rights are not American rights. They are human rights
Sure.
given to us, my opinion, by our Creator. And the Constitution was just saying, we recognize these rights,
And we'll honor that.
and we will honor them. We promise the government won't screw with those rights.
So what's interesting is how do we have we have separate due processes if you're for a military tribunal versus a standard court proceedings that you would know about for a criminal case or whatever here in the States. Both of those, I don't know much about like a military tribunal. How does that work in regards to due process and how they respect these unalienable rights?
I have no idea.
See,
I
that's
know
the
a
thing that
teacher that I
concerns
can
me.
ask. She was JAG for I think 17 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But really cool lady too. But anyway, I have no idea how a tribunal works. But I do know it's a form of due process. You still have a representative. You have a military lawyer. There is a military judge or group of judges. I'm not sure which. There's a military prosecutor. So it really works very similar anyway
Right.
to, a jury trial outside. And I would be willing to bet you have a set of very similar rights in that case.
Sure.
It's just, this was under military law instead of state law because it was on a military base and,
Right.
So but you still have due process. It just might not be by the same governing board.
Right. And the movie, I'm sure I have to watch the rest of it, so I'm guessing now. But but I'm sure they play with that line where it's like national security versus like these individuals' rights, right? And then like everything that they'll have to go through to work the negotiations to maybe trade agents.
Look, if he's a spy or something, or you got to try him as a spy, put him in a courtroom. If you have to, then, sequester the jury. If there's something that's going to come up that's a matter of national security that you say, we can't let this go public, then it's got to be super hush-hush. You might actually have to get a jury of people that have security clearance. And in that case, is it going to be totally unbiased? I don't know. I'm just throwing out ways that you could actually make this work. But that guy's got to get a trial. And modern day, right? Back then it was the USSR, but today it's ISIS or Al-Qaeda or the Muslim Brotherhood or whatever. Those guys should be tried. Those guys should be tried on American soil in federal courtrooms.
So, and because this was a debate a while ago with like Guantanamo, and that was part of Barack Obama's platform and things like that. What are we going to do with all these prisoners, and where's their due process coming from?
What kind of trial did Saddam get?
He had a world court trial, if I remember right. So not an American
Like a UN
trial.
type thing?
There's a world court. I don't know if it's probably associated with the UN in some way. I ignore it, and that's what I intend to do as an attorney. And when I run for office someday, I will continue to ignore the world court. They have absolutely no bearing on anything I'll ever do, so I don't know a lot about it. But I'm pretty sure that was who gave him a trial. But he had due process under some sort of insane law.
And most of the,
Don't know about.
almost all the Nazis under Hitler had trials too, correct? The Nuremberg trials?
Yeah.
So it's like,
I think it was a
They're
similar.
still trying or up until about 10 years ago, I think they were still trying to find some of the.
They were still trying Nazis. Yeah.
Yeah, they were trying not to.
But we're
Not a
giving
lot in
these,
South America.
if we're giving, and it's exactly what I would say. It's like human beings are human beings, and you have to treat people with some shred of humanity.
Yep.
And we've established, and we say this is what we believe, this is how we think humans should be treated, and that's what we're going to do. And if you don't do that, well, then you must not believe it.
Right.
So people should be tried fairly.
Right.
Yeah, because people were talking about like, oh, you're reading these guys' Miranda rights, and so therefore their court proceedings are going to be different. And I never had a problem with it. I was like, well, what else are we going to do with these guys? Because I heard complaints about like that on radio, people calling in. Oh, why are we Mirandizing these guys? They're not American citizens. And I'm like, read our Constitution.
Right.
It doesn't matter. But I just that persona, that idea that because you're American, somehow your natural rights are special, versus an enemy combatant whose natural rights somehow aren't special. Like, we're not respecting them as human beings.
Yep.
I'm not sure how that works, but it's interesting because obviously the movie brings that to the forefront. Like, one of the main characters is a spy that you get to know, and he's like fairly defended and stuff like that. So it's just interesting to think about, like, is it emotional response or a logical response if you feel like terrorists shouldn't have due process?
It's got to be an emotional response. It's just straight up, I don't like them, therefore they have no rights.
Right.
That seems to be the decision behind it, right? The logic behind it. So, no, I will always say, look, from the very beginning, we mentioned John Adams earlier. John Adams set the example for us when he represented, I think it was Captain Preston and his men, right? The Boston Massacre, right? He represented them because he said, no, these guys deserve due process. Nobody else in Boston wanted to represent them because it was ugly. But isn't it interesting that this guy turns out to be a founding father and a president? This is years before he was really important. At that point, he was just a good lawyer.
And
John Adams,
a
good
good
lawyer.
lawyer. He was a good lawyer, and he was kind of just trying to make a name for himself. He wasn't even a hugely popular lawyer.
Right.
He did it. And what's interesting is if you look at his story, and I think this has been something that really impacted me, was because of that trial and the way that trial was reacted to by Britain judges, he became a founding father,
Right.
in a lot of ways, because he's like, wait a minute, Americans' voices don't count, American jurors don't count, American judges don't count. You're literally not listening to us at all, even though we were like, we gave them due process under British law,
Right.
and that's when he was like, okay, we're dealing with a lawless government that just ignores its people, So I think we need to think of it in the same terms. I mean, Adams from the very beginning was like, we can create a government that actually is based on laws that respect the rights of men. So I think it's really interesting. I think it's something to think about. And a lot of people, for a while, seemed like they were just like, oh, all terrorists, just shoot them, just kill them all. And you're just like, that's not how it works, man. It's not how it works. Anyway, I think we can wrap it up.
Yeah, we've talked long enough.
Good
Which is
show,
good.
guys. Good show.
Good job. Good job. All right, guys. Well, check us out every week on the podcast. We are using Periscope to do it live. You can also hit us up on Facebook and Twitter, and you can always get our podcast on iTunes and Stitcher. So we will catch you guys next time. Three-headed eagle. My computer is literally about to die.
Perfect timing. I challenge you to a duel.
I accept. I would slap you if you were closer to me, but I'm too lazy. It's kind of funny. Right in the middle of that, I got a call from the teacher that I was talking about.
Oh, really?
Yeah, JAG professor.
You calling him back?
Should we stop the stream?
Yeah, let's do it. Oh, that was cool. Now, one thing that's annoying is I can't look at the comments. Like, we were getting comments, and I can't look at all the comments as far as I can tell. I can press on the comment,